deleted all my social medias. Now the only social media I have is my personal brand, and they are both over 100,000. There's a difference between being really good and great, literally just what's in here. 15 to 18 hours times 5 days a week. Even while being a full-time student, you can work more than 80 hours, which is double what normal people work. What would you do if you weren't afraid? My name is Andrew Kozlovski. I've been featured in Forbes twice, Business Insider twice, and named one of the top 20 entrepreneurs in their 20s by the Los Angeles Business Journal. I've been getting a lot of attention, press, and kind of energy around being a college entrepreneur. I just graduated from USC, the University of Southern California in Los Angeles, about 2 months ago. But during my freshman year, I started a business, and I was 19 and I did it to pay for my own college. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I started the business to essentially pay for my private school in LA because that's exactly the school that I thought I needed to be in and the city that I needed to live in. So it was just a combination of a lot of things happening at the same time, and I didn't come from a family that could incur that type of cost, so I had to do it on my own. I was an All-American athlete in high school, and I'm just a lover of entrepreneurship. I think if you had to describe me in one word, it would be an entrepreneur. I'm very ambitious. I have very big goals, and I love creating. I love shooting videos and sharing my story and getting people an insight into my mind, because I think some of the ways that I tick could really help a lot of people. So my story started in Atlanta, but a major part of the story is when I moved out to LA. I still live in LA, and I'll always live in LA, but it just caused so many shifts. One thing I should say is with wealth, I massively look up to it, and it inspires me. So I know a lot of people can look at wealth and they get mad and they get angry and they say, oh, this guy cheated and this and that and the other. But for me, if I see someone wealthier than me, I'm like, God, I wonder what he did. I wonder how he thinks. I just want to get that insight into their minds. And so that was I was always like this. And then another thing is, I always wanted to be the man. I always wanted to be the guy. And I always had this curiosity of the winner mentality, and I really got to experiment with that throughout my life, but specifically with sports. So as a kid, I did all of the sports, and I always was priding myself on being like at the top of the class or the group, or always a starter, even with swimming. And in swimming, one major lesson that I learned that changed my life forever was there's a difference between being really good and great. And when I had to take that hurdle, it was literally just what's in here. And I had to spend the whole summer knowing how to cancel out negative thoughts, knowing how important positive thinking is, knowing how important visualization is. And it was just all of these mental lessons that I needed to be successful in life and as an entrepreneur. So I guess as a kid, I was an extremely deep thinker, had huge dreams, but I had no idea how I was going to get them, because I just saw something much bigger for my life. And I did as early as I could. I didn't especially face that many adversities that I feel as though most kids my age didn't face. So I suppose my parents got divorced when I was 6, and I'm an extremely sensitive person and very deep thinker, so that I was just like trying to understand that whole scenario. And that just kind of taught me that life is a bitch, and like some things are gonna happen that you have absolutely zero control over. So it's the same in business, it's the same in sports. And but then in sports, like I said, I learned all of these life lessons on how to think properly and how powerful the mind is, and if you can conquer that, you can really conquer anything, in my opinion. So I guess all of these adversities, my biggest adversity was just overcoming my mind. And then once we were in tune, it was just, I really felt like I could do anything. And all of the goals that I've been accomplishing recently, I've been featured in Forbes twice, Business Insider twice, HuffPost, and named one of the top 20 entrepreneurs in their 20s by the LA Business Journal. I feel like all of those things have been accomplished simply because I expected them from myself. So I started my first business at 19, and my biggest lesson learned from that is never let anybody's negativity of life or a certain situation take that away from you going after that specific thing. So when I started the business, I didn't have anybody approve of the business, first of all. Let's just put it there. And what's worse is a lot of people were actually talking bad about the business, saying, how in the world are you gonna sell product through Instagram? So this is, mind you, 19. So this is, 3 to 4 years ago. And people they just couldn't understand how that was supposed to happen. But I had this whole vision. I was like, oh, I know exactly how this is gonna work. I know I'm gonna post these kind of pictures. I'm gonna appeal to this audience. And I already had like everything planned out. So I never speak of anything until, I connect the dots in my own head. So I was already speaking from a place where I'm gonna do it. So what kind of opinions do you have, or what kind of advice? And everyone was just like, don't do it. Or people are like, you're gonna lose all your money, don't do it. People were saying, you're not experienced, you don't have enough money, which I didn't. I had $500 to my name, and I didn't have, like wealthy parents or rich parents or millionaire parents, whatever you wanna call it. So I was just faced with so much negativity just immediately. And if I listened to everybody in that moment, if I listened to every single like negative thought in that moment, they would have stripped me from all of the accomplishments I have now. The multiple Forbes features, the over $250,000 in revenue while in college, the LA Business Journal list of making top 20 entrepreneurs, like all this just crazy stuff that's happened in my life, all these accolades would have all been stripped away from me if I had listened to those people in that moment. So for me, if I would have went back into that moment and I had listened to all of those people, that would just give me the worst regret of my life, because of what I've been able to make of my life in this moment. So if I could just say one piece of advice or one lesson that all of you guys could take away from that is do not listen to negativity, especially if you really believe in what they're trying to put down. I didn't have anybody in that like mentor category where I could just be like, hey, where do I put like $200 or $500? Do I buy more inventory? Do I update the label? Do I do this and that? I never had that kind of guidance. I suppose my parents always helped me growing up, and they support me. They didn't support the idea in the beginning, but once they saw me sprinting with it, they of course, had my back. And of course coaches, molded me and taught me like what hard work is and all of those things. But just to say, like in entrepreneurship, I was really completely on my own when I started. So I didn't have anybody, and if anything, that put a chip on my shoulder, because I knew someone out there had a lot of people, had a lot of resources, and that's why I worked so much harder. My drive, yes, I've always had natural drive, and like I said, wealth inspires me. But how did I get that? I think I'm a big dreamer. I'm a very deep thinker. And when I think about life, or the life that I want to have, so let me just back up. I sat down when I was 18. I just graduated high school. I was an All-American athlete, but I wasn't going to swim in college. I was recruited by D1 schools, but I didn't see a future in swimming, so it stopped. So all of a sudden I had all this free time, and I was just like, okay, we're starting a new life. Let me take this piece of paper right here, and let me just write down what makes you happy, and what kind of life do you want. What kind of car do you want to drive? What city do you want to live in? How much money do you want to make? When people think of you, what kind of guy do you want to be? Do you want to be the smart guy, the strong guy, the rich guy, the really business savvy guy? What do you want in life? I put it all on a piece of paper, and then I was completely focused on what I needed to do with my life, how much money I needed to make, what my goals were, what kind of life I wanted. And then when you have that clarity of vision, it's just like, okay, I'm going here, I'm right here, and I had a long way to go, but it was just kind of like, all right, let's just start taking steps towards it. So if you want to be this guy, you need to own a business, you have to start a business. So then this just insane drive is just like, okay, I want to be a businessman, I want to be the biggest businessman, I want to be a billionaire businessman that brings $1 billion worth of value to the people. How do you do that? You develop products, services, whatever. But to do that, what do you need? You need experience, and you need money, and all these things. And I was like, okay, so I'm 19, let's just start that experience timer to start rolling. So at 19, I was just like, okay, let's think of a really great idea that everybody needs. So I went through this 2 to 3 month phase of just coming up with business ideas, and I ended up finding one after the end of the 2-3 months that I could. Number one, I had a financial restriction of $500. So I had a lot of ideas that I just didn't have money to start, and it would be kind of interesting to actually go back and look at those business ideas. But so my ambition just comes from the clarity of what I want from my life. And when you have that clarity, when you have that direction, you just know exactly what you're supposed to do. And even though I have all these accomplishments, even though I'm making some money now, I'm still working harder than I did when I started. Or I don't even know if it's hard. It's probably the same, just as hard. But we're still working insane hours because my goals are so much bigger than where I am right now. So if you have bigger goals than where you are in the current moment, you need to work. Put in the work. Be smart about it. Really make an effort every single day. Like, do not relax. Don't drink. Don't hang out with your friends. Don't watch TV. Like, don't do any of that stuff. I cut out every single thing in my life when I had that clarity of goals. Didn't watch TV. Unplugged my TV. Deleted the Hulu, the Netflix, all the dating apps. Deleted all my social medias. Now the only social media I have is my personal brand, Andrew the Cause, and then my business page, Brains Power. And they are both over 100,000 because I just dropped all the bullshit and I just focused on my life. All right. I suppose my role models are anybody more successful than me. I think it would just be, I'm just that type of person. If you're more successful than me, if you make more money than me, I'm inspired by you, and I would love to learn from you, learn from your successes, learn from your mistakes. And so, like, in business, whenever I meet someone like that, I just have so many questions because I didn't have access to people like that growing up or where I'm from. So I really take advantage of that. So really, anybody more successful than me can be considered a role model. But did anyone push me into the entrepreneurial direction? Absolutely not. If anything, everyone pushed me away from the entrepreneurial direction because there's so much risk and only 1% make it and all these other things that everyone wants to push at you. But then if you so I went to a pretty good school, USC, but honestly, I would have had to drop out if I didn't have the business because I wouldn't be able to pay for it. But that's besides the point. I had with my college and my major, I had a pretty damn good, job lined up and salary. But for me, I never could wrap my head around. I come from a society where if you make 6 figures, that's considered good. And for me, I just never understood how driving a brand new leased Honda and a $200,000 house that you can't even live in because you're working all the time. I never understood how that could make someone happy. And I just wanted so much more from my life, and I wanted to travel, and I want to work extreme hours because I have insanely big dreams, but I also want a different lifestyle, and I knew that I would never be happy from the six-figure salary. And in my head, I'm like, I'm smart enough to, for sure, in a 10-year period, make more than $1 million. So if a person makes 6 figures, let's just say 100K, over 10 years they're gonna make $1 million, correct? In my mind, I'm like, in a decade, with my drive, how smart I am, and just I know who I am, I'm like, I can for sure do something, sell a business, start a business that can generate revenues or salaries or whatever the case is of way more than that. So automatically I was just like, oh, it makes absolutely zero sense to me to do that because if I do this on my own, I'm gonna do way better. And that's just my way of thinking. I was making 6 figures, throughout college. So I already flipped it on its axis. It's like, oh, you want to make 6 figures after school plus a few years of experience so that you can work up the ladder. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I kind of want to I want to make 6 figures in college right now at 19, just to ruffle a lot of feathers, just to show everybody that the way they're thinking is wrong. And 2 months after I started my first business, I had $1,000 in sales in a single day. And of course, every day wasn't like that, and I did end up making over 6 figures in my first full year of business, but it's just that way of reprogramming the way that you're thinking. How did I start a business? Starting a business is the easiest and the hardest part, I suppose. The easiest part because you're just opening the door into all of the work that's about to happen and all of the struggle and the ideas and the creative and the hard work and everything else. But it's the hardest because that's your step of commitment, and you're all in at that point. You're saying that I am going to pursue this idea. But looking back on the process, what advice would I give myself is you can't think too much about the start. You can only, I have this way of thinking of, you can only convince yourself of so many things, and then eventually you get to a point where it's kind of like you have to just try to know. So in my business, I was convinced 1000% that it's gonna work before I even, jumped. And I guess I was just thinking too much about it. I was putting too much thought into it. And of course I was just really scared because I only had $500 and no experience, and everyone was saying all these negative things. But what I would just say is, if you think it's a very good idea, do not put it off for too long, because of course someone can come along and take it, and it doesn't have to be this insane movement forward. You can just kind of just start slow and then start working. And if you're really busy, if you're a student and you have a job, you can just put in a few hours every single week and just start trucking along, getting there. It was extremely difficult, especially being a college student at USC. You have an opportunity to be a part of a lot of experiences. But in my opinion, here's how I'll put it. If you sat anybody down and you were just like, okay, Jimmy, you can be a Forbes featured entrepreneur, $250,000 in revenue, all of these, entrepreneurial accolades, but you're gonna have to miss all of the parties except for a few, and I'm gonna need your summers and your weekends throughout college. You're gonna get good grades, you're gonna have time for social life, you're gonna have a girlfriend at one point, but I need you to really give me everything you got. And then you go to the other person, it's like, okay, you can go to all the parties, you can go to all the spring breaks, you can drink as much as you want, but you're not gonna have anything when you graduate. I promise you, every single person is gonna pick the other path. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you can take as many days off as you want. It's just gonna directly correlate into how successful you are. So of course, if I felt like I was like, oh man, I'm really missing out, I would go out. But it got to a point where it was just like, I just could not care less about what people were doing. I didn't want to go on a spring break vacation. I just wanted to work on my business, beat on my craft, and become the man that, in me right now, in my head right now, I know exactly the man that I can be and the businessman that I can be. How long it's gonna take for me to show everyone else who that man is could take a while. And I know that, so I'm always working towards that. And when you're that focused, you don't care about the parties. And as far as education goes, how did I balance business and education? This is how I did it. You have school, which I would put on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So my freshman year, I couldn't do that. I had classes every single day. But every year after that, you get priority when you get higher up to pick your classes. And what I did was I put all of my classes from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday, and then from 8 p.m. until midnight to 2 or 3, I would do the homework, the essays, all the assignments. So what that left me with is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, completely blown open for entrepreneurship. And on those days, I would spend 15 to 18 hours working, researching, fulfilling orders, shooting videos. Whatever the case was, it was changing every single day, and that's the most beautiful part of entrepreneurship, is you just flow like water. Wherever you need to go, that's where you're gonna be. And so I had 5 days blown open, and when you calculate 15 to 18 hours times 5 days a week, even while being a full-time student, you can work more than 80 hours, which is double what normal people work. So when people are like, how do you balance? I'm like, you have more than enough time to balance everything. And then let's say you wanted to go to a party, just subtract 3 hours from that 80 plus hours of your business. So really it's so easy. You can go to the party, you can run a successful business, and you can be a full-time student at the same time. Yeah, it's gonna be hard. You might sleep a little less, but if you want great things in life, no one said that they're supposed to be easy. So that's how I balanced everything. You do it, you have more than enough time to do it. There's really no secret. Like, everybody could do what I did. It's just, are you dedicated enough to work 80 plus hours and be a full-time student? So I do have two mottos that I live my life by. In the short term, it's what would you do if you weren't afraid? So when you're starting a business, ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't afraid? You would start the business, right? if you find a new marketing tactic, but you have to spend a little bit of money, but you don't have that much money, what do you ask yourself? What would you do if you weren't afraid? So in the short term, I love to ask myself that, and what it gets me doing is in this way of thinking of a little bit less fearless, and you know, that really helped me a lot, especially in the beginning. So right now, it's not as scary. Like I can, you know, lose, if I lost, say, $500 or $1,000 right now on a marketing tactic that I thought would work, it wouldn't kill me. But back then, it would be devastating. So back then, I just had to really do my research, and if I really thought something would work, I just needed to go for it. You couldn't think about it too much. So my motto in the long term is make the impossible look easy. And that's how earlier in the story I was saying, instead of people waiting to get a degree and years of experience to make six figures, I wanted to make six figures while in college, while still being a full-time student, all that stuff. And a lot of people, well, you know, want to put starting a business off until the future, and just specifically with getting into Forbes, people are like, oh, that's a lifetime achievement. And I'm like, why don't I also do that while in college? So I always want to flip all of these really huge things that a lot of people accept as big and impossible and things like that. And I want to take all these things that people see as big and impossible and then make it look easy. Do it in such a time span that, you know, is like, how is that possible? Especially where I came from. I didn't come from a lot of money. I didn't have big investors or big names that helped me, big mentors, whatever the case is. I really did it on my own. So I really have this chip on my shoulder to just be like, not only am I going to succeed, I'm going to do it quick, and I'm going to show everybody like who Andrew Koz is. So those are my two mottos. The reality of owning a business versus what I thought it would be is exactly the same, because you control your day, you work how much you want to work. So if you're lazy, you're going to work less. If you're really ambitious, it just blows open more time for you to be ambitious and more time to work. And, you know, I love how creative it is. It's very adaptive. So I know a lot of people that love structure in their days, and people that work in corporate America love, you know, the structure. There's no structure here. So if you do something for 3 straight months and then all of a sudden it doesn't work the next day, you can't just sit there and cry about it. Boom, next idea. And you start being creative again. You come up with a good idea, you execute it. Does it work? No. On to the next. You have to move again like water. In business and entrepreneurship, you just have to move like water. You have to be quick with your decisions, and you know, that's just so fun. Like for me, I never wanted to do the exact same thing every single day. So in school, mostly like high school, middle school, things like that, I was just going crazy because I hated doing the same stuff over and over again, and especially when I didn't see the point to it. But here, you see the point to it, because if you do something right, your sales go up. And then if you don't do something, you don't have sales. So it's like this really extreme feedback loop. And, you know, that's just insane. And I love how different it is. So some days I could be shooting a video. Some days I could be gathering content for either my social, or shooting a video for my personal brand. You know, I could be doing interviews, just fulfilling orders, adding distribution. Like, it's so different, and there's so many tasks that I personally have that I could be working on today, that you're almost kind of like, all right, what's the most effective use of my time right now, or what's the most important now? Because some tasks are equally important, but you need to do this now in order to do something else. And it's just this crazy web, and it's exactly what I thought it would be. And yeah, it's just very chaotic, and that's my favorite part. I love the chaos of it. My work ethic, I would say the easiest way to describe my work ethic is obsession. If I have a goal, if I need to sit down today and write 2,000 emails, I will sit down, I'll wake up as early as I possibly can, and I'll get started. I'll get a coffee, and I'll just start going after it. And I'm not gonna pick my head up until I'm where I wanna be. That's just who I am. My work ethic is insane. If I need to go out this weekend and shoot 20 videos, that's what's gonna happen. If I need to make 20,000 in sales this month, it's gonna happen. It's really just, where am I going? And then like a laser, just going straight towards it. How many hours do I put in? I don't count my hours. You know, I don't work for someone, so I don't have to count my hours. The easiest way I can just say is I work all the time. So I wake up and I start working, and outside of, you know, eating and going to the gym for an hour, I'm always working. What is sleep like? So this is how my sleep works. I go to sleep around 1 to 2 a.m., but it really isn't like, oh, it's 2 a.m., I need to go to sleep. If I'm working on a task that I started at midnight and then at 2 I'm, almost done, but I'm not done, I'm not gonna go to sleep. I go to sleep when whatever I'm working on is done. So if I'm editing a video or writing, catching up on emails that I didn't get to during the day or fulfilling orders, it's not something like I need to go to sleep. So I work until I get my stuff done. Whatever time that is, I add 5 hours to. So if I go to sleep at 3, I'll wake up at 8. If I go to sleep at 1, I'm gonna wake up at 6. That's just the way I like to work. And social life, there are a few people that I really care about and that I want to spend time with, and that help me grow mentally, and they're positive and they have big dreams, and then we just feed off of each other. And that's the beautiful thing of being an ambitious person. You start to find all those really ambitious people that are very busy too. So it's not as if you guys are always available, that you can always like hang out. So if anything, when you do hang out, it's actually really special because you both know how busy each other are, and you talk about what you guys are doing. And that's the most beautiful relationships that I started developing, is people that are just as ambitious as I am, just as busy as I am, and they're not just sitting around. Because the people that just sit around, I've changed so much in the past 4 years. When I was in college and running this business and all of the stuff that I was able to do, I'm a completely different person, and I just don't have time for meaningless conversation anymore. Like, my mind needs to be stimulated, and I surround myself with people that really do that. So we make it work. People are busy, but we make it work. And downtime, I don't have downtime. I'm too young and too ambitious to have downtime right now. So I've been recognized by Forbes and many other places. And did I ever envision that? Absolutely. I would be lying if I was just like, oh, I never thought that this would happen. That would just be false. When I started the business, again, when I wrote down everything that I wanted in my life, everything that I expected from myself, I put a Forbes logo literally around this distance from my desk. So one hand length distance, I had a Forbes logo looking at me every single day while I worked, and I looked at it too. I had no idea how long it would take. I had no idea how to find the right relationship to, get that to happen. And then I got to a point where I was like, I really have a cool story here. I'm in college, generating 20 to 30 grand in revenues per month. I'm starting to get a little bit of press from other places. So I'm like, all right, let's just take our shot at Forbes, and started sending a couple cold emails. And, two guys out of the bunch that I emailed loved it, and 2 guys wrote different features on me. So, that's how that happened. So of course I envisioned it. And what does it mean to me? I mean, it means everything, because it's just validating my way of thinking and the way that I approach life. And, just if you work hard, it doesn't matter where you come from, your dreams become realities. And that is just, mind-blowing for me to be like 3.5 years ago when I started the business with nothing in Atlanta, Georgia. Now I'm living in LA. I have all of this press, I have all these revenues, and it was all just started from this idea and this chip on my shoulder of I just want to do something great with my life, and I want to be this guy. And then I just start taking these little baby steps, and then I start running, and it's just a beautiful story. And to be recognized by those places just validates everything that I've been doing. So it's a very humbling experience, and it means the world to me, to be honest. It just means the world. So for me right now, I have this thing called 1 million in 3 categories. I want 1 million in sales, because I've never touched a figure like that. Of course, I was able to touch 20 and 30K revenues while in college, but now I'm out of college, so I'm expecting much bigger things from me. So one thing as a businessman is you need to show the numbers if you want to make claims that you're really good. So one thing I want to do is really prove myself in that arena. And then also, I've been taking Instagram and YouTube seriously. On Instagram, while in college, I had over, I think, 130,000 followers. So I really want to get my Instagram following up to 1 million and get my YouTube following up to 1 million, because I've been putting out a lot of content that really helps entrepreneurs, telling my story, telling my experience, how I get press, how I approach different problems. One message that I would give everybody right now that I think would really hit home is I'm 22 years old, and I have shown over and over and over again that you cannot let anybody take you away from your dreams. I was 19, facing all of this negativity, and I came through it. I was stubborn enough to believe in my vision, in my ideas, in myself, and I went after it. And I went after it with a possessed mindset, ready to overcome any hurdle. I could have lost all my money, I would have still kept going. Everything could have not been working, I would have still been working for that one thing that worked. It was not a case of if I would succeed, it was just how long is it gonna take. I was just, there's this saying, you burn the ships. That's one of my favorite sayings, is because you can't just go into something and be like, oh, if stuff doesn't work out, I'm just gonna leave, I'm just gonna quit, this business idea. No. Like for me, it was, I came to LA, I had this big ambition of being this business guy and paying for school myself, and tuition was $69,000 a year, so it wasn't some easy task. So what I did is I just burned the ships. I was like, I'm here, I'm gonna make it work, I'm gonna figure it out, I'm gonna do everything that I need to do, and that's it. There's nothing else to talk about. Let's get it. So if I just had one thing, one piece of advice that I could give all of these viewers is, if you convince yourself that something is gonna work, you cannot let anybody else ruin that for you, because that's your problem then, because it was your choice to accept that as truth or not. So believe in yourself. I hope that my story just shows this kid that came from nothing, that faced a lot of hurdles and took a very hard path, but achieved a lot of great things because of it. And I hope that gives you comfort in doing the same, because it was the best decision of my life. And it would legitimately hurt me so much if anyone pushed me away from that, knowing what I know now and how big all of those things that I did are for my life, and how many doors that opened. Especially when you're young and you do things like I did, there's going to be a lot of people that help you on the way that you don't even expect or don't know, or no one talks about. So you're going to get a lot more help than you think. Again, if I had listened to every single person in the beginning, when I was starting the business, when I was just a 19-year-old kid, when your mother, your best friends, your teachers, all these people around you were saying that you're not experienced, you don't have money, you need connections to do these type of things, you need all of this and that and the other. If I had listened to all of this and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I am too young, oh yeah, I don't have enough money, all this stuff, I would not be a Forbes featured entrepreneur right now. I would not have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year starting at 19. I would not have been able to pay myself through USC, one of the top 5 entrepreneurship schools in the US. I would not, be in Forbes, Business Insider, like LA Business Journal, all of these things that are accolades for you as an entrepreneur, but represent a lot more than that, because they say, oh, this guy was able to accomplish all of these things at this early age. He has talent, he probably works hard, but oh, he came from nothing. Oh, he probably really works hard, and he probably really has a lot of talent. And it really says a lot more about you, your character. People want to work with you because they know what you overcome. So anybody wants a guy like that in their room, in that partnership. They want to work with people like that. So, don't look for easy ways. Never look for easy ways. If anything, always look for the hard way, because that's going to say so much more about you as a person, and it's going to make your story so much sweeter, so much more powerful. So don't look for the easy way. Cut out all the negativity and chase the impossible. I promise you, you won't regret it, and it's going to be the craziest ride of your life. I just want to thank the Mulligan brothers for doing this video. You guys do amazing stuff. I hope I was able to, say something inspirational or motivational in this. And I really hope this impacts someone to take action instead of, falling victim to someone else's negativity. Thank you, guys.